Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're tackling a question that's probably been keeping you up at night. How much should I actually keep in an emergency fund? You know that quiet, constant hum of anxiety about a blown transmission, an unplanned trip to the ER, or a sudden layoff? Yeah, life has a funny way of testing our wallets. But today, we're going to replace that anxiety with action. We're building a crystal clear, structured roadmap to financial security. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to start with a number that might actually shock you a bit. $400. According to a recent Federal Reserve report on the economic well-being of U.S. households, a single unexpected expense of just $400 is a major, sometimes insurmountable hurdle for a huge chunk of the country. And look, we aren't talking about buying a fancy new TV here. This is just basic life friction. So how are people actually handling this $400 shock? Well, the reality is pretty stark. Sure, 63% of adults would use cash or an equivalent. But look at the rest of the breakdown. 15% are forced to put it on a credit card and pay it off over time. 13% flat out wouldn't be able to pay it at all right now. And 9% have to borrow from friends or family or sell something they own. If you fall into that 15% relying on credit cards to bridge the gap, man, you are stepping onto a massive, high-speed treadmill.
Now, what's really interesting, and honestly what makes this a true trap, is this number right here, 20.94%. That was the commercial bank interest rate on credit card plans as of May 2026, according to Federal Reserve economic data. Think about that. At nearly 21% interest, a minor $400 inconvenience doesn't stay a minor inconvenience for long. It quickly agitates into this high-interest debt snowball that can literally crush your monthly cash flow for years.
But hey, don't worry. To build your safety net and avoid that 21% debt trap, we've got an exact step-by-step roadmap. First, the financial shock reality. Second, how much should you save? Third, building it with a budget. Fourth, where to keep the cash. And finally, when to break the glass.
All right, Section 1, the financial shock reality, facing the unexpected. Now, I want to say right up front, if the idea of saving a chunk of money feels overwhelming to you, take a deep breath. You are absolutely not alone in feeling that way.
To put this into perspective, Fidelity's data reveals that almost half the country, 47% of Americans to be exact, cannot cover a $1,000 emergency expense. It gets even more stressful when you realize that 29% of Americans actually have more credit card debt than they have in emergency savings. We're all fighting an uphill battle against rising costs, but recognizing the reality is the first step to actually changing it.
Moving to Section 2, how much should you save? Setting your goal. Let's calculate the exact target number you need to aim for to build your financial fortress. The financial experts over at Fidelity recommend a brilliant scaffolding approach for this. You don't just leap straight to the top of the mountain, right? Step 1 is building an immediate buffer of $1,000. This is your frontline defense against those super common surprise bills. You know, a new set of tires, an urgent care copay. Once you hit that highly achievable milestone, you move to Step 2, building the ultimate fortress of 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses.
And this brilliantly illustrates a massive misconception people have when they hear 3 to 6 months of expenses. They automatically think that means funding their entire current lifestyle. Actually, scratch that, it doesn't at all. We're talking strictly about essential expenses here. Rent or mortgage, utilities, basic groceries, insurance, minimum debt payments. We are stripping out the non-essentials, the gym memberships, the vacations, the dining out. When you only calculate what it takes to keep the lights on and a roof over your head, that 3 to 6 month target suddenly becomes way smaller and a whole lot less intimidating.
So on to Section 3, building it with a budget, engineering savings. Because obviously, an emergency fund doesn't just magically appear, it's engineered from your monthly income. To actually find this money, let's look at a widely cited benchmark from the Investing Lab Budget Planner, the 50-30-20 rule. This visually breaks down your after-tax income to basically guarantee a surplus. 50% goes to those exact needs we just talked about. 30% is for your wants, because let's be real, life still needs to be fun, and a strict 20% is carved out immediately for savings and debt repayment. By organizing your cash flow this way, you ensure that building your safety net isn't some afterthought. It's practically a mathematical guarantee.
Now, both the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and Fidelity offer some incredibly actionable, rapid-fire strategies to make this totally painless. First and foremost, absolutely crucial, make it automatic. Set up recurring transfers directly from your paycheck to your savings so you're paying yourself first. Second, manage your cash flow. You can literally call your creditors and ask to adjust your bill due dates to line up with payday. Third, save your windfalls. If you get a tax refund or a work bonus, stash it away immediately. And finally, use Roundup apps to effortlessly invest your spared change. Every single penny really does count.
Let's move to Section 4, where to keep the cash, safe and liquid. Once you're successfully siphoning this money away, where do you put it?
Let's compare your best options here, balancing easy access against interest yield. So a standard savings account gives you instant access, but, lower interest yields. Money market funds offer better rates, averaging around 0.64% APY recently, but they aren't FDIC insured, meaning they lack that standard government protection, and they're slightly less liquid. Finally, certificates of deposit, or CDs, offer the highest interest rates, but they lock your money up, and you'll get hit with penalties for early withdrawal. Remember the golden rule here. The primary goal of this money is quick, penalty-free access during a crisis. We are not trying to get rich off the interest rate.
Finally, Section 5, when to break the glass. True emergencies only. You've calculated your number, budgeted for it, parked it safely, which brings us to the hardest psychological hurdle.
When you've worked this hard to build a financial fortress, it honestly physically hurts to spend it. But you have to ask yourself this one specific question, and you've got to be brutally honest. Is this actually an emergency? Seriously, pause and evaluate the situation deeply before you ever hit that transfer button.
So the crucial point is separating a true emergency from a predictable expense. A medical bill, an urgent car repair to get you to work, a job loss, or a broken refrigerator, yeah, those are true emergencies. But holiday gifts, annual software subscriptions, a non-urgent elective procedure, no way. Those are predictable expenses. And predictable expenses should absolutely not come out of your emergency fund. They should just be planned for in the 30% wants category of your regular budget. Protect that emergency cash for true surprises.
I want to reframe this whole concept with a really powerful metaphorical shift from Fidelity. Think of your emergency fund as a monthly bill. By looking at it this way, you take all the emotion and the choice completely out of it. You just have to treat paying your future self with the exact same urgency, respect, and non-negotiability as you do paying your landlord or the electric company.
Financial security isn't just reserved for the wealthy, it's engineered through disciplined, structured choices. So I'm going to leave you with this one provocative question to end our explainer today. Look at your budget right now. What is the one non-essential expense you can cut today to ensure you can pay your future self tomorrow? Start small, automate it, and just watch your financial anxiety disappear. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and happy saving.